baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
That time. What is up, everybody? Welcome into a Thursday edition of the DNVR Nuggets podcast. Let's go. Man, that energy without Vogt. You guys really picked up the slack. You hate it, but you did it anyway. That's why you're the GOAT. We're presented, as always, by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Use promo code DNVR whenever you sign up. Very easy code to remember, DNVR. You can't forget it. Guys, we have a special show today. Three prospects to get to. We're going to get to TyTy Washington. We're going to get to, let me see, I'm scrolling up here, Bryce McGowens. And we're going to get to Blake Wesley. I have scouted these guys. I just can't keep more than one name in my head at a time. We've also got some other fun stuff to talk about, news and notes from around the NBA. And to help me do that, I've got the man who never sleeps. Which one is it? You guys are both like, is that me? It's D-Line Co.
Probably not me.
That's no, yeah, Harrison's dude. You can't get that amount of beauty without the beauty rest. Harrison might sleep 20 hours a day. It's true. I don't sleep at all. I don't sleep at all. Guys, I'm so ready for this. I couldn't be more ready.
Does that mean that you did your
for
homework?
what? The draft or like?
No, just to talk to you guys. Oh, what are we doing today?
I've also got a man who's wearing a shirt that matches his skin. It's Harrison Wind.
Oh, that is a massive insult, I think.
Why is that an insult?
That's a huge insult.
Doesn't it
my skin, my skin is not a nice tan. It's a fleshy pink color.
It's a salmon. You've got a salmon tone about you.
Yeah, that's not good.
Well, I don't want to break it to you, Harrison, but you're a white guy, so it's.
I mean, I know I don't tan, Adam. You don't have to broadcast it to the entire world right here.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe turn down the exposure a little bit on the camera. We do have a good show. We got the three prospects. We are 1 week away from our big draft show, guys. Very excited for that. Very excited for the draft. I mean this sincerely. We've been going through the draft. There's I'm almost like negative on every guy. Like I'm taking a point off, and I don't know what it is. Today, maybe it's because we're 1 week away. I like these guys.
So everybody's in.
I think, yeah, I'm kind of more in on people. So I don't know. I think it's just draft fever. I think I've caught draft fever. Eric, do you have draft fever?
I have dengue fever, as we discussed earlier. Draft fever, I don't know. Like I kind of I'm like you. There are guys that I think are interesting. There are guys that I think obviously. I mean, you're looking at these high level basketball players. All of them have something to offer somebody somewhere. Right. But the Denver Nuggets are in such a place where you just look at like these raw players and you're like, man, where does this guy fit in? So I'm kind of with you. Yesterday, I don't know about as much today. We'll find out.
Our top story, though, Harrison, before we get into all of this, I can have super producer Allie fire up actually, you know what? There you go. Fire up the share screen. Colorado Avalanche are up 1-0 on the Tampa Bay Lightnings. And who is there to cheer him on? None other than Mr. Nugget himself, as well as Davon Reed.
Let's go.
Look at this. Harrison, I mean, we all know what Mr. Nugget is, what they have to do. But I mean, look at this guy. Yeah. First of all, you see Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson. He's in the box, the celebrity, but he can't be bothered. Like there's security all around him. Nobody can get too close. Monte Morris, Davon Reed, men of the people, right there in the middle of everywhere. They're not hiding. He's getting nachos spilled on him, beer spilled on him. What do you make when you see this photo?
He is a man of the people. I mean, you just got to respect it. A requirement of being Mr. Nugget is to show up to another Denver team's playoff game. Like you just have to be there. You have to make it known that you're there. Like that is a requirement of being Mr. Nugget. And you got to tip your hat to Monte Morris amid trade rumors.
Yes.
Amid trade rumors bouncing around the entire internet. Monte Morris shows his face in Denver and Mr. Nugget shows up to a playoff game. You got to respect it.
Yo, are we actually looking at Mr. Avalanche? Is he just Mr. Ball? Like are we going to see Monte Morris at a Mammoth game? Yeah, like is he going to be working at the concession stand? I think we at a certain point called him the mayor of Chopper Circle, which
that's right. The mayor of Chopper Circle.
So this is just part of his jurisdiction. This is like not even
he's just making the rounds, Eric.
Yeah, like this is just like part of the duties. Like I mean, I love it, obviously. I love that he is committed to the job, but as Harrison says, Mr. Nugget, it's a larger job than just showing up and getting buckets.
What I love is like Monte Morris is a very rich guy. He's a very rich guy. I don't know if you guys know
That's
this.
true.
He's signed, a pretty good contract. Here he is. These seats, they're almost not good enough for him. But I love that he did, like he could go. He's probably like row 15 here. There's like row 15. He's like, no, this is my seat.
Adam,
the best seat in the house.
Adam, if you are now a hockey fan, I know this about you. Those are the best seats.
I see what you're saying. Like too close to the glass. Yeah.
You either need to be on the glass or up above enough so that you don't get the distorted view from where the glass bends. So Mr. Nugget is properly seated in the perfect seat, the perfect purview of the.
That's what it tells me. Monte Morris is a hockey guy.
If
he wasn't a hockey guy, he probably tries to get the glass seats, bang on the glass. That's cool for a little IG video. But if you actually want to enjoy the game to its maximum ability, you take the seats in the
maximum
15th row.
Potential.
I'll be honest. You're right. Though,
it's a veteran move.
Those are good hockey seats. They're not good celebrity seats. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. And you're right that he could have gotten even closer or this or that, but it's like, no, those are the best for viewing the game.
The man wants to watch. You know this. We went to a game. You were famously photographed by me, D-Line, in the atrium of Ball Arena wearing a brand new, beautiful sweater of Cale Makar. We watched the game. We were sitting in the corner, and that view was distorted as fuck.
It is
part
true.
Of me did, part of me did think about this picture, though. Is Monte Morris trying to groom Davon Reed into potentially becoming the next Mr. Nugget? We mentioned the trade rumors abound.
So true.
Did Monte Morris identify Davon Reed as a contender for the next Mr. Nugget? These are the questions I'm wondering.
So yesterday, Harrison, on the show, we talked about like if Bones got traded and Monte, like who's the next Mr. Nugget? And we basically said there isn't one. Maybe it's Aaron Gordon. We're like, it might be a vacated seat until January where we need some time to like kind of have. It's like it's almost like a reality show. Like guys are competing for it. But we didn't even consider Davon Reed, who I think actually would have. I think he might have pretty good odds. Yes, I'm not saying he would be it, but
I'm not even positive he's going to be Mr. and a Nugget. Is it possible he will be even a Nugget?
It might just be Davon. Anyway, shouts to both of those guys for being out there. I thought that was cool. We do have a trade in the NBA to go around to discuss. I actually find this a very interesting trade. The Dallas Mavericks have traded the 26th pick, Boban Marjanovic, Trey Burke, Sterling Brown, Marquise Chris to Houston for Christian Wood. This is such a great trade this is a rare example of a trade where I'm like, this is great for both teams. You got Christian Wood. He was like a star on a bad team, whatever. He's there. They're moving on. They're in a new phase. He's not needed there. And they give up a 26 pick, which to be honest, they probably don't need that guy either. They need, something else. Dallas, on the other hand, gets rid of nothing of value to them. They didn't need that 26 pick. They do need like a rim rolling athletic guy. They get that in Christian Wood. I actually think this makes Dallas a little bit better. I think it cost them nothing. Like if it doesn't go well, whatever. They didn't lose anything. What is your kind of immediate reaction to this one, Harrison?
Oh man, I had a little bit different of a reaction. Is Christian Wood going to help the Dallas Mavs? Yes, especially in the regular season. Is he going to be a difference maker in the playoffs? I have a hard time getting there. Like, is Christian Wood going to be on the floor in a big game in a big fourth quarter? I don't know, man. Like, I got a lot of questions about Christian Wood. How does the guy that puts up the stats that he does, like almost 20 and 10, why does he bounce around to like a new team every couple seasons and nobody seems to really want him? Like, what is it about Christian Wood that turned the Pistons off and the Rockets off and the Mavs off and being like, we don't want to build with this guy? So he's an okay player. Like, he's going to make the Mavs a little better, but like, is Christian Wood the answer? No. I've got to think they could have gotten somebody who could really help them a bit more, I think, like at the end of a game in the playoffs for that package with the 20 some odd pick, whatever it was. Yeah, I think they could have done a little better.
Yeah, I mean, like when I first saw that, I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of just stuff that you have to give up to get Christian Wood. I was like even surprised in the first place that I mean, it's a first round pick, which obviously always very valuable in the NBA. But probably the biggest thing that they gave up was Boban. Boban in the right. You don't think so? What do you think it was?
I just both. They're not going to use Boban.
Player wise. I mean, like he's probably the best player, right? Like I'm not saying like that was too much to give up. I'm just saying like it's wild when you just start to discuss trades and you start to say like this guy is worth this and this and this, because then you're like, well, there's no absolute value in the NBA on players. It's sort of like what makes sense at any given team, depending upon or in the opinion of the executives that are making or that are having the discussion. Christian Wood's like a guy that didn't exist, and then he existed like in a loud way for a while. He was like putting up big stats. He was telling Shaq he was a casual for not knowing who he was, and then he like disappeared again. So I'm kind of like, it just feels like they're just kind of moving things around. Like I don't know if he makes anybody better. It works for both teams, and in that it sort of just like shuffles the chairs on the deck. I don't quite know what to make of any of it.
I don't think any of the guys that went out were going to play. Trey Burke, maybe it'd be the guy that you would maybe think. Christian Wood is going to play. Harrison's point is a good one. Is he going to play against the Golden State Warriors in a playoff series? Probably not that much. He probably has a very limited role there. But I do think in the regular season, he's going to be a guy that's like, he's hard to guard. I think the thing, if you think about a Jokic, which is unfair, Jokic is going to murder him if he tries to play center. Like he's just too big for him. Sure. He's done it in the past. But if you could somehow play, you get somebody else in there that can play the big, he is hard for Jokic to guard because Luka gets downhill very easily, and he's an above the rim, very talented above the rim finisher. So to me, it's like a type of player they probably could use. And while I'm with you that I don't think that's a championship piece, I do think it's one of those ones where we're going to look up again and be like, man, Christian Wood is shooting 65%. From the field, because all he does is dunk it next to Luka, and they have a 125 offensive rating when he's on the court with them. So, to me, I like it. It just didn't cost him anything. So I don't know. It's not necessarily a big one. It's not necessarily a huge trade, but it is interesting now that we've had two trades, one with Denver and now one with Dallas, that have happened a week before the draft. It kind of makes me wonder if this is going to be a fireworks type of draft. I mean,
it is.
We need the content, baby. Need the content.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of trades just like this one, like 4 players for a pick. Like a lot of trades in this kind of makeup. The other thing about Christian Wood that makes me worried about him for the playoffs, the last 3 seasons he's played on Detroit and then Houston for 2 seasons. Pretty much hasn't played a real basketball game in 4 years.
He's one of those guys that probably, I assume from hearing him talk, we remember he got suspended earlier this year. I think against Denver, he got benched in the second half. Like he's had some issues, there. He's one of those guys that doesn't know what he doesn't know. You know what I mean? If you've only ever been on the worst team in the NBA, which is what he's been on, if you've only been on that, you don't realize how different it is to be on not the worst team. And so I am curious in that one regard. But this is also, I think, in some ways, a classic Dallas move. Dallas makes a lot of these types of moves, it seems, and I think it's probably one of those things where Mark Cuban is so engaged and he's so like, oh man, conference finals, we could do. Just got to add whatever we can add. What can we add? Like 7 players to get Christian Wood? Like, sure, let's do it. Nonetheless, it does make him better. Also wanted to shout out Harrison Wind, our own Harrison Wind here.
What?
He has, I know this is really uncomfortable for me. He has the mock draft tracker that went up on thednvr.com. It's available to everyone if you want to check it out. And it is, you can see this is the time of year where the mocks are starting to get more refined. Guys are gathering intel. People are starting to hear different things. And it's nice to kind of have a place where you can check back every day or every other day, whatever you want, and see what the update is. Like, what are people picking Denver? What are they picking to go 21 and 30? And you start to see some trends. What are some of the trends you see so far, Harrison?
Well, there's definitely not a consensus. What's that?
There's a few names, though, that I feel like pop up. There's like 3 names that pop up every time now.
There's no consensus across all these mocks as to what position or really role the Nuggets are targeting. But there are a couple names. One of them we're talking about today in TyTy Washington, who gets mocked to the Nuggets in a couple of these. Also, Jalen Williams, who I think we're all very high on, gets mocked to the Nuggets in a couple of these, although I think the kind of rumblings are he might go in the teens right before the Nuggets select. So Jalen Williams, TyTy Washington, a lot of these mocks have Denver actually taking a point guard. like the TyTy Washington, the Blake Wesleys of the world, which is a little interesting, and we can definitely get into that. But there's definitely little consensus on what type of player the Nuggets are targeting, it seems like.
Yeah. Consensus on the type of player, but I'm with you. Jalen Williams and TyTy Washington pop up a lot now for the Nuggets. We're seeing that one. David Roddy actually pops up a few times, I think, for Denver in that 30th pick. So that one's that you wore your Roddy shirt just to endorse that one. But those two names I feel like are almost the most that I see that I'm starting to see. We'll see if that changes as time goes on. But I just thought that was an interesting detail. Should we get into our draft pick here? We should also mention there was a pre-draft workout today. I don't think it's necessarily guys that are going to be drafted. I think there were a lot of like summer league or two-way option type guys today. I don't know if there's a whole lot to get into with any of those picks. Do you have anything quick you want to kind of say about any of the guys today, Harrison?
No, I don't think there's anything we need to get into from today's workout.
All right. Well, without further ado, there's one guy that I feel like we're going to go a little shorter on than the others. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to start actually with Bryce McGowens here. Bryce McGowens. Harrison, why don't you start us off with a quick overview on him?
So Bryce McGowens is a wing out of Nebraska, freshman, just finished up one season there, 19 years old. He is comped to Zach LaVine, and I think in an alternate Nuggets universe, in a universe of a couple years ago with Tim Conley at the helm, I think Bryce McGowens could have been a Nuggets type of pick. I feel like he's kind of got some RJ Hampton vibes to him. Thinking back to that draft. Bryce McGowens, he's got a ton of
he's got tattoos. This is a tattoos comp. I know it.
No, it's not at all. But Bryce McGowens, the number one thing about him, he is just like a prototypical wing scorer. He's got a ton of scoring upside.
Yeah.
Like I said, in that Zach LaVine mold, he's really long and athletic. He can get into the lane. He can finish. He's got great like ball handling, plenty of moves in his bag, a deep, deep bag. And he's a scorer. He can score from three, although he didn't shoot a great percentage last year at Nebraska. He's going to have a really good shot in the NBA. I feel like he can pull up out of a pick and roll and rise and fire from the mid-range. He can get to the rim too, and he's got great bursts. So he is projected to be, I think, if everything pans out for him, just a really versatile offensive guy that can score from three, that can score from the mid-range, and can get to the hoop as well. And the other thing about McGowens and just his offensive game, he drew a ton of fouls last year at Nebraska. He had a 49.1 free throw rate as a freshman, which is crazy high. He's just like this fearless driver who seeks out contact. He had 10 games with 8+ free throw attempts, and he knows how to sell a call as well. So if everything pans out for him, he could be a really versatile, just effective offensive player.
What's your scout, Eric?
I liked him all right. Like to me, his shot was very slow, which is something that always really bothers me. And he also, his shot starts from his chest, which is also feels like it's going to get blocked a lot. Like he's going to need to get a little bit more space than maybe he's going to just naturally get in the NBA. He's the one that I watched the least amount of. Like I watched him for a little bit and I was like, I don't know, man. He just seems like a little bit rough to me. Like his handle is interesting. Like he's got a little bit, like what you're saying, his bag is there, but it's also a little sloppy. Like he was doing a lot of like behind the back dribbles that he was sort of like throwing into the lane and felt like it would be easy to steal and pick off. So, I mean, I'm intrigued a little bit. Like this is the guy that I was the least interested in. The three that I was looking at.
He's the type of guy that you watch him for just like 5 minutes, and you're like, okay, I know what this guy's about.
Yeah. He might be the easiest one in that regard. I mean, people kind of know me and the type of guys I like and dislike. This is clearly a type of guy I dislike. Like he is a pretty zeroed in scorer. What I mean by that is I think he sees the basket first, second, and third and kind of reads the court after that. He is a really talented scorer, and I think sometimes we can take for granted how many skills it takes to be a talented scorer. And what I mean by that is like he's got body control, he's got coordination, he's got touch, he's got good form, he's got all of those things. And sometimes the seeing the court part, I don't want to say he's going to turn into the next Jokic, right, where he's seeing it great, but maybe there is a way to sort of have him. Now you have the skill part. now we're going to get you to start thinking about the game a little bit differently. I do think there's something to be said for that. Whereas guys that see the game but don't have the skill, that's really hard to teach. Like guys sometimes just don't have the body control or coordination, and I don't know how you gain that. So he has that. But that being said, his strengths are the ones that I personally value the least, especially when we talk about the Denver Nuggets. Like they're not struggling to score, and they have plenty of guys that are going to score less than what they're capable of. And the worst part for me is some of his defensive lowlights. They remind, who was it we had the other day? I've already forgotten the name. Who we were like, man, it's not just that he's bad on defense, it's that he doesn't appear to care. It reminded me of that. There were some lowlights in that one where you're like, man, that only happens if you don't care about defense.
Yeah, who was that? The guy that like we were like super impressed with. God, who was that? I'm with you. I can't remember a goddamn single name.
You're gonna have to give me something else there.
Was it Jaden Hardy? Maybe it might have been him.
Yeah, I think it was. That sounds right. That sounds right.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some
defense. Talent. Yeah, defense is definitely one of his weaknesses, as is passing and playmaking. He's got a ways to go to be a good defender. Like he has the tools in theory. 6'6.5" with a 6'9" wingspan. Really good measurables for a 2. But it just doesn't look like he really cares about defense at this point. Poor fundamentals, poor awareness, just needs to improve in basically every single way.
There's a lot to improve
on the defensive end. And the other big weakness is his playmaking and passing. If you go through his game log, Bryce McGowens had 1 or fewer assists in 20 out of his 31 games in Nebraska last season. So super low assist guy, doesn't really pass, doesn't really set others up. I mean, his role was to score at Nebraska, but still, I mean, you would want him to be able to pass the ball a little better than that. So he definitely does have some big weaknesses.
Harrison, on the low light reel, there were some plays where when from watching it, you're like, it's obvious that it's calling for a pass here. Like guy on his hip, guy full on help, and he's trying to find a way through both. And you're like, bro, clearly there's a guy wide open underneath the basket. Hit him.
Yeah, so he's got a ways to go in that department, and as a defender, the offensive skills are super intriguing. I agree. I don't see him as being a Nuggets guy at all. Like I said, a few years back, I think he could have been, but not anymore. Not where this team's at right now.
Jokic might pull out his hair if that's what he was handed. And then there's also the question of like, do they have a I think Zeke Naji is an example of this, and I could be wrong. This will be the year that tells us if we're right or wrong. But I think Zeke Naji has had a usefulness the last 2 years. I mean, he got hurt, so it kind of diminished it. That is not necessarily what his final usageness can be. Like he can be a more like, I'm not saying you give him the ball to create or anything, but he can be more of a defensive ace or this or that. But in the meantime, he can stand in the corner and knock down threes, and he can be switch or whatever. I don't know if this guy has that. I kind of think that he is going to be useless until he unlocks more of these parts of his game that we're talking about. And that to me is scary.
Yeah. He does have long arms. I will say, like, he does have length. He does have the ability, like his driving to the rim, like his ability to like kind of stretch through. And this is, I think, also speaks to the body control you're talking about. Like his ability to finish from sort of far out is interesting. But I mean, if you're telling me he's weak on defense, like that's going to be an immediate next for me.
It's going to be a little bit tough.
That's going to be tough.
Well, speaking of long arms, Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame. If you like long arms, Eric,
I do like long arms, dude.
We're gonna Ali, we're gonna do it on the other side. We got to hit our first break, but we'll get back to Blake Wesley. Very long armed.
Let's go, dude. Finally.
Evoca TV. If you guys have not checked out Evoca TV, you're late. Get set up with these guys over the summer so you're good to go for Nugget season in the fall. Evoca TV, they've got Altitude Sports. They got a bunch of other national channels as well. You can watch the Nuggets. You can watch the Rockies on AT&T Sportsnet with Evoca TV. Like I said, other national channels too. Go to evoca.tv/DNVR. When you use the promo code DNVR, you're going to get $10 off your first 3 months. That works out to $15 a month for Evoca TV for those first 3 months, plus a receiver, no contracts, no hidden fees. They're not going to lock you in. They're not going to hike the price up on you without letting you know. So go to evoca.tv/DNVR, evoca.tv/DNVR. Use the promo code DNVR. You're going to get $10 off your first 3 months. Also at DraftKings Sportsbook right now, we got the NBA Finals going on, of course. Join the finals action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA bet and get $150 in free bets instantly. If you're looking to turn a small bet into a big payday during the finals, check out DraftKings same-game parlays. You can bet player props, team props, quarters, halves, whatever you want. Put it into a parlay. Turn a really small bet into a huge payday. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals. Get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code DNVR, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
All right, back here, segment 2, the DNVR Nuggets podcast. We're going to get into our next prospect here. Very interesting one, long-armed.
Hell yeah.
We got Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame. First of all, my first note here, Harrison, can you name, there's only 2 players from Notre Dame currently in the NBA. Can you name any of them? It's not a school, especially guards. You don't get a lot of guards.
I think I can name both of them, Adam.
If you pull this off, it's going to be impressive.
Let's hear this.
Number 1, Jerian Grant.
Nope. I don't think he's in the league.
Oh, is he not in the league? Okay. Well, then Pat Connaughton.
Yeah, you got him. The other one, I'll give you a hint. He was a Nugget last year. This time.
The Nugget last year.
Matt Ryan.
My God. How did I miss that? Well, he did not graduate from Notre Dame, so I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, so then maybe it doesn't count. But nonetheless, there's not a lot of guards from Notre Dame. Like, that's not a pipeline of NBA talent. Notre Dame.
Is Jerian Grant really not in the NBA anymore? He's not. Damn.
So tough break. All right, but Blake Wesley, what can you tell us about him?
Blake Wesley, 6'4" with a 6'9" wingspan. He's a pick and roll point guard. He's really crafty, just a floor general in the pick and roll. Just finished up his freshman year at Notre Dame. His strengths, his feel for the game, his ball handling, and his playmaking. And like I said, you really see that in the pick and roll. He's just really crafty. He can hit the big on the roll. He can hit shooters that are being helped off of. He's got great head fakes and misdirection in the pick and roll. Does a really good job at manipulating the defense and freeing up looks for himself and his teammates. Just a great feel, great pace in that action. Like, that's really important, if you're going to be a point guard in the NBA, to be really comfortable and versed in the pick and roll. And kind of out of that, you see other parts of his game that you like. His mid-range jumper looks really good. Great balance. Great shot. He's a threat to get into that shot really quickly, just pulling up out of the pick and roll. Really good body control on all his shots. He can beat bigger bigs on switches. He can just, if he has a mismatch, take that guy to the rim and finish. He only shot 30% from 3 and 65.7% from the line. I thought his shot looked pretty good, though. I feel somewhat confident that he's going to be a decent shooter in the pros. And
Me
then,
too.
like you guys were talking about, that 6'9" wingspan, it looks longer than 6'9". Some places had it listed at 6'11".
I saw that too.
He did measure at the combine at 6'9", so that's what we're going to go with. But
that's right.
He gets pokeaways, gets deflections. His arms look like they're down to his knees, but that really helps him defensively and just kind of being a disruptor on that end.
Eric, what do you think? Did you get a chance to check him out?
Yeah, I did watch him. He honestly, I mean, I hate to say this, like he looked like a bigger Bones to me. Like I don't know if listen.
So hold up, because this is part of what I had.
This could be a hair comp. I don't know.
It's definitely partially hair comp. I mean,
it's a partial hair comp, but he's also, not only does he have the long arms,
he gotta have a similar body? Look at the body.
Yes, he has wide shoulders, just like Bones. Bones has wide shoulders, long arms, big hands. And the longer that I watch the NBA, the more and more I'm convinced that the one thing that you can unify almost all of the best players in the NBA is that they have long arms. I don't know why this is. It just seems to be the case. The one exception being, what's our guy out of Memphis? God damn it.
Bane. The
Bane.
train,
Desmond Bane.
Desmond Bane is the one big exception to this rule, but
I hate to break it to you, D-Line. Blake Wesley, small hands.
Oh,
Small
God.
hands.
no!
Yeah.
Well, then get him out of here. What are we even talking about this guy for? No, but
So,
I
see this comment. Hold up, Eric. We see this comment. The way he moves reminds me of Bones too, and I agree. Look at this pose, this picture here. Isn't this a very Bones-esque posture and everything? The hair is there. Like, I agree with you, and it's funny because when I was looking at some of the the Ringer, they had him comp to Bones, and I swear it is just because they really? Physically look like him. But I actually don't think their games are that. I think their games are meaningfully different.
Yeah, I can see it, but I also I was watching him. I was like, okay, because I put together the cards. I'm like, okay, Jamal Crawford, that's what we have, and I'm like, okay.
Everybody is comped to Jamal Crawford. There's 5 players that get comped in every draft. They get comped.
There will be only one player comped to Jamal Crawford on the DNVR Nuggets draft.
But I'm saying, the longer that
and it's Blake Wesley.
The longer I watched, I was like, that's goddamn Bones Highland, but a bigger Bones Highland. I was a little taken aback by it. I wasn't ready for it.
Do you think that there's value? I'm going to answer this first. Yes, I think there is. Do you guys think there's value when 2 players kind of look alike but have different games?
It confuses the defense.
Yeah, you get switched around, and all of a sudden you're switched out onto number 3. You think it's number 8, and you're like, oh, he's the shooter, and then he just drives around.
I gotta think that only works with identical twins like the Morris.
Yeah, the Morris twins, baby.
Yeah, but the games are also pretty similar. I'm telling you, these guys, you might have the oh, he's a shooter, play up, and it's him, and then you go oh no, he can't shoot, and you're off in his phone. Constantly confused. Getting back on defense, you're like, where's my man? There he is over there.
Where's my hair?
Guy.
Follow the hair. Where's the hair? Oh God, no, different guy.
I'm just saying, man. I think it has a little value. I like this guy. So he's going to make my short list of players. Like I said this yesterday, there weren't a lot of players in this draft that I like. I was kind of looking at it. We're halfway through maybe all the players we're going to profile. And I was like, man, I think I like one of them kind of. He's on the list. He's on the list of guys. And it's because he has the requisite tools. Now, he's not a perfect defensive stopper type, but he has some defensive upside there. And we've talked about this in the past. I think the Nuggets need to be good at defense, but short of having great individual defensive players, they can have an identity. And one of those identities is the length, just having a lot of length and that deceptive length. The fact that he does have that 6'9", 6'10" wingspan and he uses it. It's not just that he has it and it's a wasted talent. He actually uses it. He gets in passing lanes. He's a great free safety. He has very good instincts to use that length. He pokes the ball away a lot. You talk about a Davon Reed, Bones Highland. I do see a collection of these guys that all of a sudden come together to create and help cultivate a defensive identity that's really useful. So defensively, I like him. And then the offensive game, what's not to like? He's not quite Jalen Williams, in terms of his feel for the game. He's not quite that, but he does have some really nice plays that I watch and I'm like, yeah, that's a high level play. You can't teach that or it takes time to develop it. And he has some of that. So I look at him and I think he can be more of a two-way type of player, not an elite offensive player, maybe not an elite shutdown defensive player, but a guy that gives you a little bit of both and probably fits into a lot of different types of offense. So to me, I watched him and I was actually really impressed with him. And he'd be a guy that's on my list of guys I would be interested in taking.
What's also notable about him is he can definitely play both backcourt positions.
Yes.
He can play on the ball and he can play off the ball. And I think that's important if you're talking about the Nuggets, because something that you love about the Nuggets backcourt as it's currently constructed, it's you got Jamal Murray, Will Barton for now, Monte Morris, Bones Highland. All 4 of those guys can play with each other, can play on and off the ball. There's so much interchangeability with all those 4 guys. And I think if you're adding somebody else to the mix, you probably want that guy to be able to play on and off the ball. And Blake Wesley fits that. So if you're thinking about trading Monte Morris, and I think one of these point guards might get taken by the Nuggets if they do trade Monte, I feel like that's a reason why they could look to take a point guard in the draft in the first round here. If Monte gets traded, I think you want to backfill that position with a guy who can play on and off the ball, just like Monte can. So I think that's also part of the appeal with Wesley.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's a part when we start to talk about adding specialists to the roster and into the rotation. That's one thing that you don't think about that you would miss, especially in the continuity offense. The ability for Monte to initiate the offense or Jamal or Bones, like when you don't have that, this is a guy that I don't think you lose that with. He definitely could come in, maybe even immediately, but certainly I think in short order could be a guy that could play the lead guard alongside, Bones or whatever, or off guard. So I like that a lot. And just some of his passing, man. And here's something I'm going to read from Kevin O'Connor over on the Ringer, his scouting report here that I like. Energetic defender with long arms. He's often assigned the opponent's best scorer, and he's always locked in off the ball to disrupt actions. First of all, love all of that. Love it. A locked in, like just a guy that has that's a talent. The ability to lock in is a talent. And some of this we were talking about with McGowens or whatever, it's like he doesn't have that talent. Even at his best, he locks in for like 3 minutes. And that's a real talent. So when a guy has that, especially as a young player, I love it. And then he has this one. He's had countless games when it felt like he was the source of inspiration for the team's collective energy. When we talk about one of the existential qualities that the Nuggets are missing, that's it. I mean, we've seen like Draymond Green is this guy, right? How many times has he been the emotional sort of fuel to the team or what have you? I'm not saying he has it to that degree. I don't know. I don't have a scout. But when I read that report, I think Denver needs those types of guys. They probably need multiple of those types of guys who pick the energy up. Bones is one of those guys. So you start to put Bones and Wesley together, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you got so much energy coming in on the bench. You're going to inject some life into this game.
You got energy. The defense is confused because they can't tell them apart. Like you got a lot of things working for you there.
And then we could call him Bones and Big Bones. I'm going to refer him only as Big Bones from this point.
I was thinking because you have BW and don't you have Buffalo Wild Wings? Like I think there's something there. Bones.
I think that's the greatest thing is that every time that we're evaluating a player, we're like, how can we make this a t-shirt?
Blake Wesley not giving
marketability very high on our draft board rankings.
I mean, are you as in on him as I am, Harrison? I mean, he's on that short list, like I said, of guys I'm pretty intrigued by this guy.
Dude, I'm kind of with you. I'm not that enthused by the crop of players like slated to go from 20 to 30 in this draft. Like, I think compared to last year,
Bones would be the obvious pick of all the guys we've seen. And some of this is we're tainted by seeing how he plays. But even just on skill set, you look at and you're like, I definitely feel like this is a lesser draft than last year in this spot.
Yeah, like I'm just not that excited by that many guys. I mean, spoiler alert, Jalen Williams is my number one guy for the Nuggets. Like when I put out my big board next week, he's most likely going to be number one for me. He's my guy in that range. But Blake Wesley,
that's close.
Yeah. He's definitely a guy.
Okay. Wow.
There are things about Wesley that I get excited about for sure. I'm definitely more excited about him than a lot of guys we talked about.
Yeah. Biggest concern by far is the fact that he's 6'3". That's by far the biggest concern.
Yeah.
6'4", I think, actually 6'4".
Yeah, 6'4". He's 6'4". He's 2 inches taller than Bones.
He looks like he plays bigger than his size. Like just watching him, he looks bigger than 6'4", doesn't he?
He didn't strike me as small at all. He actually seemed like a big guard. Like it, and again with those arms, like he was always in passing lanes. He was always picking shots off or passes off. At least there were a lot of examples that they put in the highlight reels. I'm interested in this guy too. I think that my hunch and my theory on why we're not that excited about any of these guys is because we are in a championship window, and the thought of adding somebody that is obviously like pretty rough in that they're going this late in the draft is like not that palatable. Like the more I watch this, I'm like, I really hope we package these picks and like trade for a proven player to fill that 3 or I don't even want to trade Monte. Like my desire is that we package Barton and the 2 picks and get some sort of dynamic 3 out of the deal.
Yeah. Vogt just had a great joke. I guess I'll have to share it on the other side. He had a good joke in the chat. All right, should we move on? Oh, actually, I want to ask one thing. I think Jokic would like this guy. I don't know that he's going to play right away, but I think he has a mentality a style of play and a skill set that Jokic would like. The 3-point shot needs to come along for him to love, but I do think he would be a guy that Jokic would like. Like, I think Jokic likes Bones. I think he would like this guy over time.
Yeah, I think so too. He can just do a lot of different things. And we'll get to TyTy Washington on the other side, who can also do a lot of different things. But Wesley he's not a one-dimensional player. Where like Bryce McGowens, it's a one-dimensional guy. He's a scorer. He gets the ball, he's going to try to score. Blake Wesley, he's more of a basketball player.
Yeah. I like him. He's on my list. Let's take a break. On the other side, it's not Bol, it's TyTy Washington out of Kentucky. We'll get to him on the other side.
Oh my God. The American Raptors, they play at Infinity Park this weekend, guys. Infinity Park in Glendale is the place to be. June 18th, join us as 4 rugby teams from across North and South America clash on the pitch. Argentina and Uruguay take on the American Raptors and Vancouver Ravens in this 2-weekend international rugby event. Second weekend's coming up, June 18th, this weekend at Infinity Park. For tickets and match information, go to infinitypark@glendale.com. Experience rugby at its finest with the American Raptors. Also, our next sponsor here, Athletic Greens. It's a product that I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I just wanted more energy in my daily life. I wanted to optimize my immune system, and I just hated taking all those little pills and vitamins. I just wanted something that I could take and just be done with. Athletic Greens is exactly that. One delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole 4 superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. So Athletic Greens, they have it all. And they're also lifestyle friendly if you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Athletic Greens works with all those types of diets. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. It supports mental clarity and alertness as well. So it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Athletic Greens is just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/nuggets, athleticgreens.com/nuggets to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, back here, final segment, Thursday edition, DNVR Nuggets podcast, and we've got TyTy Washington out of Kentucky, our first Kentucky player. Harrison, what do you tell us about TyTy? First of all, I have to say, so I almost said this both times. I know I've said it before. These graphics are gorgeous, Eric. I hate to compliment you, but every time I see them, they're so good.
You do hate to compliment me. That's the one thing that I'm taking from any of this. And Harrison, can I just add, Athletic Greens? I cannot endorse Athletic Greens anymore. I take Athletic Greens every day, and people have begun to compliment me, Eric, D-Line, on my physical appearance.
Are you becoming more athletic?
No, most certainly not. People have told me I look more rested and that my skin looks smooth.
They're like, you're so brave for dressing the way you do, and you're like, what? What do you
I'm
mean?
just telling you, like,
you're so brave for posting that photo that you posted of yourself. That's very powerful.
I'm just telling you, like if me, D-Line, can receive a compliment on my physical appearance, it can happen for you too. Athletic Greens.
So let's clip that and send it to him.
TyTy Washington.
TyTy Washington. Well, I'm glad you mentioned he's the first Kentucky player we've talked about. My general rule of thumb in the draft is if you don't know what to do, just take a Kentucky guard. Like that's a nice rule to live by in the draft. TyTy Washington, he's a point guard. It seems like he can play a little off the ball as well. Freshman out of Kentucky, 19 years old, 6'4" with a 6'8" wingspan. He is what I would just call an all-around point guard. I mean, this guy's a pure point guard. It seems like in every sense of the word. He's got good size and length for a lead guard with that wingspan. He can play make out of the pick and roll. Loves to get to that mid-range pull-up. He's got a great mid-range pull-up. TyTy Washington does. Really effective scorer from there. He's got a great pace and kind of patience and feel to the pick and roll and just to his entire game. He plays at like this kind of unique pace, it feels like. He's kind of a game manager. He controls the entire offense. He moves the ball as well. Got great court vision. And he just kind of has this really nice point guard feel for the game to him. I feel like he's got a high basketball IQ, knows how to run his team. I was pretty impressed watching the film of this guy just in terms of how he plays point guard, how savvy he is kind of in that role.
And what do you think, Eric?
You know who I saw in him, and I don't know if this is a Kentucky thing. I don't think so because I never watched him there. The longer I watched, I saw Jamal Murray. I saw Jamal Murray's shot. I saw Jamal. I don't know what, like, he, to me, like, I saw some of Jamal Murray's finishing. He's like a lesser version. He's shorter than, obviously. I mean, that's the immediate negatives on this guy. It's just that he's a little bit smaller. He is the same height as Bones. He has the same hair as Bones. He's great. He's got
this hairstyle is really picking up steam.
A great Bones hair comp. Like,
what you want to know what's funny is Kevin O'Connor has comped him to Emmanuel Quickly.
Yes, which is basically Bones. Bro. But I'm telling you, like, I saw Jamal Murray in this man's shot. I saw Jamal Murray as he was playing. He's just a smaller version of, which makes me think like, okay, there's a redundancy there. Like, I don't know if that's all these guys that we're looking at. I'm like, okay, I can see all of these two anyway. There is talent there. There's absolutely something that's going to translate to the next level. It's the redundancy. It's like, okay, we would have to create a space for either one of these guys to have any sort of role in the Nuggets, which means, if we are trading Monte, but then, you don't want, we're not in a place where we can hand over even our backup unit to a rookie. This guy feels like, though, he's going to make an impact in the NBA. I absolutely see the shot, the finishing, the control, the passing. The one thing I didn't see was anything about his defensive prowess. Like, I didn't see any highlights that sort of went over that. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about that.
I think he was like solid, but the thing about it is his physical tools. So this is the one thing we haven't kind of mentioned here, because I'm with you, Harrison. I watch him and I'm like, I really like this guy, man. Like, similar, honestly, to Blake Wesley, he plays a style of basketball that I really appreciate, really like. I think he's another guy that, just in terms of like playing with him, would Yoke like it? Like, absolutely good decision maker, capable of doing a lot of different things, good passer, good scorer, in the mid range in particular. So I think he's a guy that has that. It's just he's so small. I mean, 6'3", and we're talking about another small-bodied 6'3". It's another issue. The Nuggets have that with Monte Morris. I think he has the upside to be a Monte Morris type player, meaning a guy that can play real minutes for a really good team. It's just that you got to be really certain he's your guy if you're going to go back to a 6'3" player. You got one. Again, what's the roster look like around everybody? What's everybody else on the roster look like? You're probably not doing that if you hold on to Monte, if you hold on to Bones. I don't know that he has a role going forward, let alone now. But I do like him. Like, he is a player I do like. Yeah. I like the style. I like the skill set.
He honestly could be Monte Morris, in a couple years. Like, he's got a lot of the same tendencies, I feel like. And Monte, coming out of college was a way more polished player, 4-year player at Iowa State. You kind of knew more about, I think, exactly the type of player he's going to be.
Yeah.
TyTy Washington probably has a higher ceiling. I definitely say that Monte does, but just in the pick and roll and how much of a floor general TyTy Washington is, you could kind of see him playing, like that backup point guard role like Monte Morris did.
Right. And I think he might actually be a little bit bigger than Monte, even just like when you talk about length. I think he's a little longer, so it's a little bit less. But when you start to pair him with, say, a Bones Highland, then you are talking about, that's a vulnerable backcourt in a playoff series. And is Denver really – he's probably too good to be a fifth guard. Maybe not next year, but going forward, you're not going to draft a guy to be a fifth guard. And he's probably too small for Denver with the guys that we feel like are cornerstone backcourt players, which are Jamal Murray and Bones Highland. So I really like him. I mean, he's a guy we might end up circling back to like 4, 5, 6 years from now. He might be a second draft type player if Denver's in a different spot with different personnel. But
Yeah,
that's the only thing I would say about him is I just don't think he fits this team.
This does feel like this could have been another Tim Connolly pick. Like when they picked Bones Highland last year, we were like, what that's not a need. What are we doing? And now I could not be happier. The greatest pick of all time. So TyTy is, I mean, he's a good player. Like he's definitely a good player. Mitch, our merch manager, is so over the moon he's so into TyTy Washington. Simply
he's not though. Yeah.
Simply because he plays at Kentucky. So we were all like, all right, we're like, okay. And it sounds like we all sort of like incredulously came to the TyTy Washington film and we're like left like pleasantly surprised. Like this guy looks like he can do some things. Yeah, he can do some things. Like, so I mean, I like the idea of just having good players in our system. It's just like again getting back to the idea of like, man, there are things we absolutely need. And I just don't know if we're going to get them from this draft regardless. If we're talking about making sure that the pipeline is strong and that we have, the cupboard remains stocked. This is a guy that you'd love to have in the system because just talent is hard to come by in the NBA, or just reliable, good players are difficult to find. And this seems like a guy that is going to make an impact.
Yeah. He just seems like a really solid player, somewhat of a high floor. It feels like for a freshman, even I feel like he's going to be a good shooter, shot 35% from 3 last year, 75% from the line. And in the mid range, I mentioned this a little bit, but he looks like a young Chris Paul sometimes when he's rising up in the mid range. He comes off a screen, one dribble, just pulls up when he has that little bit of airspace and just knocks down mid-range jumpers at a really high rate. Like, I think he's going to be an elite mid-range guy.
I think both of these guys we talked about pair really nicely with Bones offensively. Like, I would love both of those guys to be playing with him on the offensive end. And the defensive end, again, that's the hardest part to scout, especially with the time frame that we have to kind of scout these guys is the hardest part. I'm mostly just writing him off because of physical reasons, but both guys have really good wingspans and have sort of a knack for like, they're not dumb defensive players. Neither one of them, right. Wesley or TyTy. So both of them are just really, really compelling offensive options. Defensive, bigger question marks, probably more likely than not that they're the shutdown type guys that we expect them to try to fill that with. But look, I wouldn't be unhappy with either one of them. TyTy, a little bit more like, what are we doing? Like, what's the plan?
Let's go.
But I think he's a good player that I would look forward to watch playing.
Here's the thing, though. Are the Nuggets taking Blake Wesley or TyTy Washington if Monte Morris is still on the roster?
No
way,
right?
Maybe. I mean, way. Like, neither one of those guys are going to start or not even start. Neither one of those guys are going to lead the second unit. There still needs to be someone to lead the second unit, unless you're saying like Bones Highland is going to be, elevated to that position. I don't think it's in any way.
I could see Wesley.
They're going to get rid of.
I could see Wesley. It would depend on what your other players were. It would depend on kind of what the rest of the roster shaped out to be. But Wesley to me is an interesting player, man. Like he might be again. Bones Highland, Wesley, Davon Reed. That's really young. I think part of this is it's so inexperienced. I don't think you go into the title year with 3 guys that are basically all 1 year or less of experience. So that wouldn't work from that. But from a standpoint of you're talking about, 20 and a half feet of wingspan between those 3 guys that are all mobile and sort of have good feel for those types of things, how to use it. That's cool to me. It's intriguing.
Yeah, for sure. I would say it's unlikely that they pick either of those 2 guys if Monte Morris is still on the roster, but he might not be. I mean, it seems like it's definitely a possibility that he could be traded here. So if that's the case, you could definitely use another ball handler to get in the pipeline.
Yeah, if either of those guys were available at 30 still, like I would probably, if you're looking at, okay, like, in the Tim Connolly years where you have like the one guy that's like, okay, this is sort of fills a need. And then you have like another guy that's just like a fun pick, like a pick that you just like the guy. I mean, these are both like great players that, I wouldn't hate that the Denver Nuggets to draft them.
I think they would also fit into the culture. Both of those guys. McGowens is out. Like to me, we kind of wrote him off quickly. He's written out, but the other these 2 guys, I think would be guys that would, they would be good Nuggets, they'd be good Nuggets to root for. Wind, yesterday we kind of gave the guys that are in our club. Do you want to just kind of give roughly the guys that you feel are like, you don't have to rank them, but just kind of the guys that you have maybe written off and the guys that you were kind of like, yeah, I'd be happy, I think, with that pick.
Yeah, let me actually get up my
I will say there's one other fallacy here, Eric. We're talking about the different ones that make this hard. One of them is if you say you like a guy, then people will be like, he doesn't solve your problems. Right. The truth is, a rookie's probably not going to solve your problems anyway. So
like, a rookie's going to create more problems for you.
Yeah. So it's not the worst thing in the world to say this guy doesn't solve your problems next year. It's probably going to be the guy they pick is almost certainly going to be a guy that does not solve Denver's problems next season.
And Michael Malone does not play rookies, so we're not talking about a guy like no one that's
going to Michael Malone that he don't tell him that, man. Ooh, boy.
Jalen Williams, like I said, is number one on my board.
I think he's number one for me too. We might be getting the group think here, but I like him a lot.
Blake Wesley's in the club. Kendall Brown
is Tari Eason, even though he's like projected to
go
well.
That's my guy. Tari Eason's my guy. If we could get Tari Eason.
Yeah. I mean, he'd be just, I feel like, too good to pass up at 21.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel like you'll be frustrated a lot with him.
Yeah. Like we're going to be really frustrated with him.
He's going to look like Torrey Craig for the first year for sure.
Yeah. Kendall Brown's in my club. I like Kendall Brown. Yeah. He's in my club, probably for number 30. Wendell Moore Jr. also in my club.
I like him also.
We haven't done him yet, though, have we?
I don't think
we
so.
haven't.
Yeah, well, we need to do him next because I think just from the little bits I've read, I think he'll be in my club. We'll see.
Yeah, he's in my club. Let me see here. I mean, Niko Jovic, of course, in my club. Of course, the first ballot entry into my club.
He lives in the Poku realm. He's like the Poku of this year's draft.
I'll tell you, the guy who I can't decide if he's in my club is Dalen Terry. I feel like he should be in my club, but
he's so out
I'm just still debating on if he is or not.
I'm in the same boat.
Right? He's so out. He's so out of my club.
Why?
Because his feet are so heavy.
Yeah, he's the guy who looks like he's gonna fall over when he's running.
I don't like the way he moves at all. Like I want no part of that guy. Like that's the one guy that I saw. I'm like, I'm out. No, thank you.
Man, I feel like he's the guy we should love, but I don't know.
For me, I think Jalen Williams definitely in the club. I think Blake Wesley is in the club. Koloko is kind of in the club for me. I'm kind of intrigued by this guy. A little bit later on, of course. And then Beauchamp, I think, is probably in the club right now. Again, none of these guys get me like super excited just yet. We have more guys to go as well. None of those guys get me super excited. There's more guys that are out the club, and there's a handful of those guys as well. Like Jovic is another guy that's probably out the club for me. I just don't think Denver needs him. He looks like a project.
They don't. He is.
Jaden Hardy's out the club, like so far out the club, they can't even see him. There's a handful of these guys here.
There's a couple guys we haven't talked about that could be in the club.
McGowens is so far out the club too. He's down the block. He can't come.
Christian Braun. We'll probably get to him maybe tomorrow or next week. Might be in my club at number 30.
Okay.
I like EJ Liddell too. Do you like him?
You love your Paul Millsap comp.
Yeah,
to me.
You want to know what actually the EJ Liddell? You know why he's comped a little bit to Paul Millsap? I think I have a theory. He looks old. You know how Paul Millsap has just like looked old since he was 18. I think
I like it.
If you were to guess his like at the carnival, you guess the age. You'd be like, he's 34. It's like, no, he's 19. Like what?
I like it. I like an old soul. A guy that comes in and he's seen a few things, even if he hasn't. He just seems like he's been there.
All righty. Well, we have a couple more days to keep going through this. It should be great. I'm actually, like I said, I'm in draft mode. We're going to be back next Thursday for our live draft show. All hands on deck, DNVR production. I can't wait for it. You guys should set your calendar, set your watches. Watch it on the TV. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you have a smart TV, you just watch it on the TV.
Watch it on the TV.
You can put it on the TV. It's right there. My kids know how to do it. Everybody knows how to do YouTube on the TV.
Pour yourself a cup of lean and watch it on the TV.
Don't pour yourself any lean. Please do not. Everybody,
not condone that.
Tuning in tomorrow, Casual Friday. We'll have Miroslav. He's teaching us. He told me what he was teaching us. I already forgot, but it should be a good one. He always
don't tell me. I want to be surprised.
All right, we'll all be surprised tomorrow for that. Hit that like button on the way out, everybody.